There's nothing better than having a Saturday to yourself to reflect. I did yoga this morning, feeling good, and I dove deep on this topic. So grab a drink because we're gonna get into it. Not gonna lie, this is my second cup of coffee, but she is beautiful. I put eggnog in it, an espresso with cream, and Starbucks. We don't drink Starbucks here. It's so easy to get stuck. We get stuck in jobs, in relationships, and I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. We get stuck in friendships or relationships that we just kind of fall into. We also get stuck in cities, our hometown, places that we move that we only intend to be in for a short period of time, and then we end up letting years pass by. Give this video a thumbs up if you feel stuck right now or if you felt stuck at some point in your life. And what's odd is the reason that we usually get stuck isn't because we're trapped or we're forced to stay in a certain situation, but it's usually because we're just a little too comfortable to make a change. Things aren't great, but they're good. It's more effort to make a change and leave than it is to stay. And of course, the risk and uncertainty that comes with making a change usually is what causes people to stay complacent and stay where they're at. That is called analysis paralysis, and I like to refer to it as inaction is the enemy. If you remain where you are, if you choose to not make that change, that is your greatest enemy. Because if you stay, what if it gets worse? And in reality, it probably will get worse than if you were to actually make that change and leave the situation. If you don't have a therapist, you need to get one. I think we all should be in therapy, but if you can't afford one right now, or if you just don't have one at this moment, don't worry, I got you. I'll share mine with you because she is gold. She's giving me gold, and she has dropped a lot of wisdom on me lately that I think will help you guys as well. So let's have a little group therapy session. So I'm really happy with where I'm at in my life right now. My career is going well. I have a really amazing friend group and support system around me. I think it's so important to surround yourself with people who inspire you, who are doing amazing things, uplift you, and you can do the same for them. And I love my job at LTK. Life is good, but I still feel stuck in some ways. And I actually didn't realize this myself. My therapist pointed these things out to me, which is why I think it's so important to have someone watching you or holding you accountable, because it's so easy to get stuck in this self-serving bias where you think you're doing great or everything is good and you're complacent and you can't really complain about anything really bad happening, but sometimes you don't notice what is actually hurting you. Like I said, my career is going great, but I feel like I'm hitting some ceilings in some ways, especially with my business as a content creator. And then I love Austin. I feel very comfortable here. It's a safe space for me where I have a great community. I love the area I live in. My family is nearby, but I've outgrown the city and I keep returning here because I think it is my comfort zone. And I realize I'm stuck. I am stuck. Even though I do all this work, it is normal to get stuck, and we all do in certain ways. It might not be in every part of your life, like your relationships, your career, the city you're living in, but there could be little aspects where you are holding on to something old, that is old energy, and it is causing you to not be able to level up or reach the places that you are meant to be because it's stagnant. It's holding you back. So I've been planning to move to New York since I was 11 years old. I had this burning desire and dream to move to New York. I wanted to go to NYU. That didn't happen. I planned to move there after I graduated university. That didn't happen. I moved to Spain instead, and then I planned to move to New York after Spain. That did not happen. And then before I moved to Vancouver, I said, hey, I'm going to move to New York after this. Didn't happen. It just keeps getting pushed off. I'm avoidant of it. I'm very aware that I'm avoidant of it. And I keep returning to places that feel comfortable or my safe space. But the truth is, if you stay in that safe space, you're not gonna grow. And that's the obstacle that I'm facing right now, is that I am hindering my own growth by not taking the risk of moving to New York and getting out of my safety zone. So around this topic, my therapist told me the story, which I'm sure you guys might have heard, but probably not, or you need to hear it again, of the frog in the boiling water effect. And I think this is so important to remember every day. I remind myself of the story every single day since she told me about it again. If you put a frog in a pot of boiling water, it will immediately jump out. It knows that it is going to die. It's very shocking to the frog. But if you put a frog in a pot of cool water, room temperature water, and you slowly turn the heat up on the stove, it will stay. It'll remain in the pot of water until it is boiling internally and it dies. It doesn't realize that it's dying, and it doesn't realize that its environment or surroundings are slowly killing it. And I think so many of us end up in these situations where at the beginning, it's tolerable. We feel okay. We feel comfortable. We say we're going to be here for a year or a few months, and then we're going to make a change. But the thing is once you're in a situation, it's harder to get out of it. You can take that job. And I find a lot of us, especially if we went to universities, maybe you weren't able to major in the degree or the school that you really wanted to. You didn't get into the business school, but you got into the, liberal arts school of the college that you wanted to go to. And then that leads you into a job that is not exactly what you wanted, but it's good enough. And then you stay in that job because it pays okay, and you think the work is not too bad, and applying for another job is too much work. And you move to a city for that job that it wasn't the dream city that you wanted to go to. It's Chicago, let's say, instead of New York. But then you build a life there, and you kind of have this comfort zone that you are getting used to. Worse than that, you end up staying in your hometown, even though you had every intention of leaving. You're in this job, you're living your life, you're in this routine, and days go by. It's really easy for the days to pass, the weeks to add up, the months to, accumulate, and then before you know it, it's years. You may realize you're not living the life that you intended to, or maybe you don't even know what life you really want to live, but you feel stuck in this ecosystem or this environment that you created for yourself. And I think that's what happens when a lot of people have their midlife crisis. And I think it's really sad, and it's really difficult to go through that, because you reach a point where you realize, hey, this isn't the life I want for myself. This is the life that was kind of built for me by society, and I didn't choose this, but I kind of fell into it. It's better to realize the areas of your life that you are stuck in or that you feel complacent in before it's too late, before you end up being that frog in the pot of boiling water that then dies. Because when something shocking happens to us, we typically will set a boundary. We have our boundaries. And if you don't have boundaries, I have another video on boundaries and how that actually really changed my life in the past few years, setting really good, healthy boundaries and really understanding what I want out of my life and what I want to invite into my life. But I think it's so important to set really nice boundaries, especially so you don't end up in situations like the ones that I'm talking about. But like I said, if something shocking happens to us, it's easy to get out immediately, but when you end up in a situation that's okay or comfortable and it progressively gets worse, maybe you're in a relationship and it started out really great, you're in the honeymoon phase, you guys like each other, it kind of just fell together, but you realize your values may be different, you want different things out of life, maybe you are growing apart as you go through life, or maybe it's even toxic. There's toxicity in it, you might be toxic, they might be toxic, it's just not great. But you're comfortable with each other. You feel safe with each other. The thought of having to build something new with someone else is so exhausting and draining to you that you would rather just stay in the situation. Same thing with a job. Building your career up again in another company might be so daunting, or starting your own business could be really daunting, or moving to a new place might be extremely daunting. And then you just feel stuck because of the energy that would expend to get out of it. But the truth is that you're not stuck. And there is a way out, and it may not be the easiest thing to do at that moment to make that change, but trust me, it is much harder and much more draining and much more taxing on you and your whole life to stay in those situations and remain stuck than it is to get out. And to get unstuck, you need to do a few things. The first step, and I think the first step with everything, is shifting your mindset. shifting it from scarcity and thinking this is as good as it's going to get. I'm scared to leave. The risk is terrifying. What if it gets worse? Because what if it gets better? What if things fall together and you live a more aligned life with people around you, with your partner, with your career, with the place that you're living? You can have a whole new resurgence of energy by shifting different things in your life. And I think if you go into it with that mindset, it will be so much easier to get out of your situation and to become unstuck. The second thing is to create an exit plan. You don't need to quit your job cold turkey tomorrow. I actually don't advise that you do that, or go break up with your significant other after this, or move to a new country. Don't do that right now. I highly suggest creating an exit plan. Write down your thoughts, write down why you feel stuck, write down what your values are. Get in touch with yourself and understand what you want out of this very short and fleeting life that we have. What kind of work fills you up? What is your superpower? I have a full course to guide you through all of this. If you're interested, the link is down below. It's called Girl Boss Abroad. And there I teach you how to get in touch with yourself, figure out what your superpower is, and how to align your career, your relationships, and the place that you live with it. But yeah, you need to really hone in on yourself and understand what you want out of life. And then what are the steps to get there? Financially, materialistically, what are you gonna do with your things? What are you gonna do with your relationships? How are you gonna tie up loose ends to reach your goals? Make a plan. And the next step is to rip the Band-Aid off. There's no right time to make a change. And honestly, there will always be excuses to stay, or things are going to get better, or hope of the future, or that, the glimmer of hope is so real. And the thing is we will always stick with potential. We'll fall in love with potential. We'll see potential in someone else. And I heard this recently, but I think it's so true. The potential you see in someone else is what you would do in their situation. And you always have to remember that, because people are not going to act the same way that you do. Once you realize that, you'll be more real about situations and people and the hope that comes with anything, a job, person, place. Rip the Band-Aid off. And if that means quitting your job before you have something else lined up, which I highly suggest you always take a sabbatical between jobs and go on a trip, preferably alone. This is the perfect time when you're going through this transition and trying to get unstuck out of a situation that you're in. Go somewhere alone. Take a solo trip to a country you've never been to. That is the best way to get in touch with yourself. I do this all the time. I'm a huge advocate, and I have a ton of videos on my vlogs from those trips, but also teaching you how to do it, teaching you how to take your first solo trip. I have a whole video on that. If you have any other questions about any of those things, leave them below and I will create more content on it. But now is the time to go somewhere, whether it is a short trip while you're figuring things out, or even moving to that place that scares you so much. I'm making this video for you guys, but I'm also making it as a reminder to myself that I can get unstuck. You can get unstuck. We just have to take these steps in that direction. I need to take these steps towards New York because I go there all the time. You guys probably, if you've watched my content, you've seen my vlogs from New York, you know how much I love it. You know that I go there 4 or 5 times a year, which is ridiculous that I go there that often, and I don't live there, but I think everything's a process. And in the middle of all of this, or like while all of this is happening, I think it is an important reminder to also be compassionate with yourself and love yourself through all of these things. Don't get down on yourself for staying in situations that didn't serve you for a long time, because you know what? It's not easy to leave. And I think we need to remember that it's really hard. Breakups are hard. Leaving jobs are hard. Moves are hard. You're mourning something. You're leaving something behind that held such a large and special place in your heart and in your mind, and making this transition it's not easy emotionally, and it's not easy mentally. It takes a lot of strength. So if you are taking the steps to get unstuck from a situation, I'm here for you. I hear you. I see you. Leave me a comment and let me know, because I want to give you support through it all, because it's not an easy thing to do. But trust me, your life is going to get so much better because of it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Connect with me on Instagram and TikTok. And of course, subscribe here, drop me a comment, and like this video if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.